Vakratunda Mahakaya Suryakoti Samaprabha Nirvignam Kuru Me Deva Sarvakaryeshu Sarvada Saraswati Namastubhyam Varade Kamarupini Vidyarambham Karishyami Siddhir Bhavatu Me Sada Gurur Brahma Gurur Vishnu Gurur Devo Maheshwaraha Gurudeva Param Brahma Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I'm in day 5 of a 15-day tour right now of Iowa, Illinois, Indiana, and Ohio. And today someone was asking me how much I travel, and it's half the year. And the more I travel, the more lucky I consider myself. Because the travel that I do is quite different than corporate travel that some people are engaged in. And it's with people that they may not want to be around, in places they may not want to be, eating food they may not want to. But in my case, it's the exact opposite. It's in places I want to be, with people I want to be, with food I want to be eating. And so I'm grateful to all of you for giving me these opportunities. This is my 3rd year coming here, and I was asking, so who was the last person that gave discourses? And it was me. I was here last year too, so unlucky for you, but lucky. Lucky for me. It's inspiring. Today some of the Balagir students had greeted me, and I am not that much older than them, but it's wonderful to see people grow up. And I don't mean biologically, that's going to happen anyways, but mentally and grow up. So thank you. A boyfriend loved his girlfriend very much and wanted to marry her and constantly reminded her that he wants to marry her. And she said yes, but only when she can see. She didn't have eyes. She was on a donation list, a donor list. And weeks passed, and months passed, and years passed, and he would constantly express his love to her, and she assured him that when I can see, we will get married. And one day when he went to visit her, he went with such enthusiasm, saying, we found a donor for you, that you will have eyes, and then we can get married. And she was so happy too, that she'll be able to see, that she'll be able to fulfill her promise to be married to this boy. And she was taken to the hospital, and the surgery took place, and she had the cloth around her eyes. And that boy was there waiting for her to take that cloth off of her eyes, and she's there holding her hand, and slowly she takes the cloth off her eyes. And when the cloth is off, and he says, now we can get married. And when she looks at him, she says, no, we can't get married. But you said when you can see, we can get married. I did say that, but I didn't know that you didn't have eyes. And he was totally crushed by her choice. And he took off from there, devastated. Some days passed, some weeks passed. He wrote a letter to her. She received the letter, and when she opened it, the letter had said, I hope that you're enjoying your eyes, because before they were yours, they were mine. That he was willing to give up his eyes for her love, at least the expression, the formality of that love. But she wasn't just blind physically at the time, more so she was blind mentally, in taking for granted this expression of love. Now this is a story, but often it becomes our story. We are all blind in many ways, and one of the ways we're blind is taking for granted that which is close to us. And I'll give you a very definitive example of this. Who are the people that you get angry at the most? See, this is why we have wives sit on one side and husbands sit on another side, and children sit on another side. We get angry the most at our spouse, at our child, at our parent, whoever it is, correct? The same people we are supposed to be most loving to, most patient with, are the people we are not like that with. We take them for granted, right? And we learn when they're not around. My wife's grandfather passed away a couple of days ago, and he was very old, and he lived a full life. And I was talking to her, and she said, "I knew he was going to pass away, so I don't know why I'm so sad." And I'd shared with her is that the sadness is new memories cannot be created now. You can reminisce about the old memories, but new memories cannot be created. And sometimes we want to create new memories. We want to share a certain word or go to a certain place, but that's not possible. And that's what makes us most sad. What's funny about this is that we experience this sorrow when all we want is to be happy. You've all come here to be more happy today. People have chosen not to come here to be more happy, to be more happy too. All we do is for happiness. We're programmed to move towards happiness. Whether we achieve it or not is different, but we're programmed to move towards happiness. Yet here we are creating sorrow. This is where Gautam Buddha has taught 2/3 of our problems are self-created. Gautam Buddha is the compassionate one. It's actually not 2/3. It's almost like 95% of our problems are self-created. I'll give you an example of this. What are the 2 greatest fears that social scientists share that we have? Social scientists. Number 1, fear of death. Sure. And number 2, fear of public speaking. Presentation, sure. Public speaking. And I heard someone say, no, that's correct, but I'm highlighting what social scientists and not the rishis. Death and public speaking. But some people love public speaking. You can't take the mic away from them. They get angry when the mic is not there. You're all thinking, yeah, you. So public speaking is not intrinsically fearful, but some people create that fear and some people don't create that fear. So the majority of the sorrow in our lives is self-created. This evening and tomorrow evening, we are going to explore the subject of life is a gift, living is an art. And this is based on a satsang which Puja Swami Tejamananda shared in Munster, Indiana 5 years ago. And it's such a potent subject that they brought a whole Mananam book on it. I've done a retreat on this. I've done workshops on this. This is I've done a 1-day discourse. This is a 2-day discourse. So there's a lot of thinking to be done on this subject. So please keep thinking. And if you have any questions, write them down. And the last half hour or so, then I'll try to answer those questions. And the same goes for tomorrow. Life is a gift. First direction in which we're going to look at this is, what is a gift? We talk about gifts often, right? Thanksgiving is coming up. You know what we're supposed to be doing on Thanksgiving? Giving thanks to the pioneers who opened this country for us. Now, what are we actually going to be doing on Thanksgiving? Eating food, too much food. There'll be much food coma going on that weekend. Watching too much football, and having spent too much money on Black Friday, and possibly on Cyber Monday. What is a gift? The first characteristic of a gift is that it has to be given by another. So I can't take my wife's credit card and go and buy myself a pair of shoes and say, hey, thanks for the gift. That's called a purchase, not a gift. It has to be given by another. Fine. So then I go to Srinivasi and I slap him in the face and say, hey, here's my gift to you. The second, nothing happened here, I'm just giving you an example. The second characteristic is that it has to be given with love. That I can't give a gift and throw it at someone. that it has to be given with love. That's it. That's simple. By another, with love. So simple is the definition of a gift, but now we have to think about it. How many gifts have we truly given to someone else? Sure, it came from us, but was it given with love? When it comes to receptions, you know how receptions work? It's just like a transaction. You invited me to your reception, so now I have to invite you to my reception. And you gave me $100, so I give you $100 back. It's just how many people, that's how much money you give. And often I don't want to go to your reception, but I go. And I don't want you to come to my reception, but we just play this transaction. So we're giving, but are we giving with love? And now the tragedy is, most people write no box gifts. So now I can't re-gift what I don't want. That opportunity's gone now. Think, are we actually giving gifts? For many of us, the answer may be no. So what do we do then? Just do nothing? No, what we should do is keep giving and give so much that it starts to grow into love then. That's what we need to do. It's like people who go to the gym, especially those who are retired. They go to the gym for hours, 2-3 hours, and they actually work out just for a few minutes or so. But if someone goes to the gym, the chances of them working out is much higher than if they don't go to the gym. So we should keep giving, but we should grow into giving with love. And we know that a gift is given with love when we give what is needed, not a gift which we want to give. I'll give you a specific example of this. When my wife and I were engaged, and we had an engagement get-together, and we called all of our relatives and friends and said, we have all that we need in our lives. So whatever you give to us, half will go to Chinmay Mission Niagara, and half will go to a orphanage in Karnataka. So for our engagement, then we were given so much in gifts and went half. Then for our reception, we talked about this and we said, we'll do the same thing with a few changes. Half will go to Chinmay Mission Niagara, half will go to the Honda Corporation so Sheila can buy a car. But we didn't tell people that we're going to do this. And so what did people do? They gave more. Because just the nature of the people who we invited, they didn't want money going somewhere else. They wanted money going to us. But see, they were giving what they wanted to give. They were not giving what was needed by my wife and I. And now for all of those who are involved in teaching, and every parent is the teacher, whether they like it or not, an ideal teacher teaches what is needed, not what is wanted. As a parent, if you gave the reins to your children to decide what they eat, what will they eat tomorrow, Saturday? Cereal 4 times a day, correct? Sunday 5 times a day. Are you going to feed them cereal 9 times this weekend? No, because you don't give them what they want. They want that, but you give them what they need. You are not their wish fulfiller. You are their well-wisher. So let us think lots about what is coming from us to others. Now, if we flip the picture, how many gifts have we actually received? Sure, we have a lot of stuff, but is that given with love? Now, some may be thinking, should we reject that then? No. We do not control other people. So I may give to you with love, but if you receive it with bitterness, that's not my problem. I can barely control myself. I definitely can't control you. It's unidirectional. Suppose we get into an argument and it's my fault and I seek forgiveness, but you don't forgive me. It doesn't matter. I've done my part in seeking that forgiveness. Whether you forgive or not is secondary. But for many of us, we get lost in the expectation game, isn't it? I expect you to reciprocate what I've done. But Lord Krishna has already talked about this. Don't focus on the fruits. Focus on the actions. Now the hypothesis being put out right now is life is a gift. So we have to think, does it fall into these two definitions, these two qualifications? Let's think about this. Given by another, did we create our own lives? Did we give birth to ourselves? Some egotistical people like to think that, but we didn't give birth to ourselves, our parents did. So then the question is, what about our parents? Who gave birth to them? Our grandparents. Who gave birth to them? And we keep going like that. But fundamentally, we have to reach the original parent. What Puja Swami Chinmayananda calls the uncaused cause. Because if there's not an original cause, it's called infinite regress. It's a fallacy. You just, if A is there, B is there. B is there, C is there. You keep going like that. But there has to be an original parent. And that is not our biological parents. And if you remember, like Venkateshji had shared, what did I speak about the first time I met all of you? The significance of our samskaras. What was the sixth samskara? Ooh, if you know this, I will be impressed. Now we're just making things up. See, I don't come in with expectations. It was called Nishkramana. On the fourth month, the father takes the child to the temple or the ashram for the first time. It's on an auspicious day, mantras are being chanted, and the father shows Lord Rama and Mother Sita, or Bhagavan Shiva and Bhagavati Parvati. And the message is twofold. The message to the parents is, this is not your child. This is Bhagavan's child. So treat them like that. Treat them with reverence. Dedicate yourself to them. You are their custodian. You are their caretaker. But they are not yours. We often get lost in this possessiveness. With the physician, if I'm the best physician, I should be able to operate on my mother or father or son or daughter. But I'm not allowed to, because I'm too possessive. I can't cut into their flesh or whatever it may be. So they have to bring in someone else. But if I'm the best, I should be able to do that. See how that possessiveness makes us inefficient. And the message to the children is, these are not your parents. This is your parent, meaning Lord Rama and Mother Sita. Find them. You were born as an orphan, and your only role and responsibility in life is to find your parents. And who are your parents? What does Rama mean? Joy. What does Shiva mean? Auspiciousness. This is the purpose of one's birth. How many of you have seen the movie Man of Steel that came out this summer? Come on. If you expect me to come here regularly, you have to start studying movies, or this is not going to work out. So in Man of Steel, he is with his adopted father. He's sent from a different planet, and the adopted father shows him this ship. I'm giving it away. You should have already watched this. This is not my fault right now. And the adopted father says, to the end of your life, find out who you are. And so he does. Every superhero, yesterday a group of high school students, we went to see Thor. Thor, Superman, Batman, all of these people are trying to find themselves. So they copied what the scriptures are teaching. To find oneself, to find one's parents, really. So this idea of life is a gift, we cannot, though it's given by another, it's not given by our parents. Okay? Biologically, yes. But metaphysically, it's been given by the Creator. Okay. Now, the second point is it given with love? Many times we think that Bhagavan, the Creator, is partial. That he's blessed you more and blessed her less. Especially when it comes to siblings or twins. Like God blessed this person more and blessed this person less. Is God partial? Is the sun partial to people who save lives versus people who take lives? The sun is completely impartial. The sun shines equally on all beings. It is not God that is partial, it is you and I, who are partial, but we don't want to accept that. So what do? We blame Bhagavan. What is this called? What is the Sanskrit word for this? Mudra. But not just a mudra. Mudra means an indicator or a message. This is called the Jnana Mudra or the Chin Mudra. Actually, it's Chit Mudra. Body, mind, intellect, ego, Brahman. When my hand is just sitting there, my ego is identified with my body, mind, and intellect, and away from Bhagavan, Brahman. And so whenever something wrong happens in my life, there's a problem with the BMI, what do? I blame you. I blame my parents. I blame America. I blame Illinois. I blame the weather. And I keep blaming. But someone who understands that they're more than their BMI, they start taking that finger inside. So if there's a problem in my life, it's not your fault, but and without assigning fault, but I'm responsible for it. And when one becomes fully responsible for their joy, they identify with their potential. And what happens to the ego? It's gone. It's merged with Brahman. Just like a circle has no beginning or end, one's joy is infinite too. Life is okay then. And today I was telling some of the Balagar students, they were putting a tilak on me, and they all use their ring finger, right hand ring finger. This finger is called, in Sanskrit or Hindi, anyone know? Anamika. Anamika means without name. In other words, this is the most humble of all fingers. Because I always write my name on everything. I want everybody to remind themselves of me. But Anamika is without ego, so it's with humility, that we should always offer with humility. Whether it's a tilak, whether it's a flower. Bhagavan is not partial. Bhagavan is impartial. We are partial. And if we can understand and appreciate this, we will not blame. A gauge of someone who is growing on this path is that they blame less. They complain less. In chapter 7 of Srimad Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna says there are 4 types of devotees. And I'm going to explain to you what these devotees are. And as I explain these, please identify which devotee you are. Don't look to the person next to you and say, hey, they're the 4th type of devotee. I'm number 1. Because that's our tendency. Whenever these systems come up in the scriptures, I use it to judge other people. And I quote the scripture, but Lord Krishna said this. It wasn't me, it was Bhagavan who said this about you. It is our dashboard. If the low tire pressure comes on in my dashboard, it's my tires, not your tires. The 4th type of devotee remembers Bhagavan only in adversity. Think from our scriptures of a personality who remembered Bhagavan in adversity. Anyone? Draupadi. In adversity, she remembered Bhagavan. But what's fascinating about this whole scenario is that she remembered Bhagavan last. When she was being disrobed, first she went to her husbands, she went to her uncles, she went to the other side. And while this was happening, she kept on being disrobed. Then finally she calls out to Bhagavan Krishna. And it's shared in Srimad Bhagavatam that Lord Krishna, though not in the same kingdom, literally got up out of his throne and started running towards her. That's when the clothing never stopped. That Vastra avatar took place. When we remember Bhagavan in adversity only, we are the 4th type of devotee. And many of us fall into that category. People turn towards religion for 2 reasons. Either out of inspiration, like preventative medicine, or out of desperation, reactive medicine. Indian males, when do you start going to the gym? When you're diagnosed with diabetes, don't you? See, it's reactive rather than preventative. We have to go towards the Creator, not out of adversity, but adversity and prosperity, which is the 3rd type of devotee. They remember Bhagavan when times are bad and when times are good. And the example of this from our scriptures is Sugriva. Sugriva, when he was being terrorized by Vali, he remembered the Lord Rama. And when he was made king of the monkeys, he still remembered Lord Rama, though he forgot briefly, and I'll share that with you another time, I don't have time today. He remembered Bhagavan. So not just in adversity, but also in prosperity. That person knows that Bhagavan took me out of adversity and gave me this prosperity. We have to be very clear about this. Traditionally, in Sanatana Dharma, in warfare, the winning warrior, the charioteer opens, after they win the war, they open the cart of the chariot and they put their hands like this, like forming a step, like we do with kids, and we lift them up. And the warrior is supposed to step onto the chariot's hands and then step onto the ground. So Prince Arjuna is just one. He's the winning warrior, and Lord Krishna is his charioteer. So Prince Arjuna is looking at Lord Krishna like, you should put your hands out. And Lord Krishna is just staring at Prince Arjuna like, what do you want me to do? And this awkward silence is taking place. Finally, Lord Krishna breaks that silence and says, hey, just come off that cart, enough. So sadly, Prince Arjuna comes off because this is his prestige. He's just one. He steps off, and as soon as Lord Krishna steps off the chariot, what happened to the chariot? It burst into flames, turned into ash. Why? As long as Bhagavan is there, nothing can happen to that chariot. And think about how much negativity would have been projected on that chariot. How many fathers, mothers, sons, daughters would have said, you're taking, my family's life away. How many people Prince Arjuna rightly took away? How much negativity would be there? And why did it burn up before? Because Bhagavan is there. So we have to remember that even in prosperity, why are we prosperous? Because of him. Second type of devotee. The third. The second type of devotee is someone who remembers Bhagavan not just in adversity, not just in prosperity, but they want to know Bhagavan. And the example of this from our scriptures is Raja Janaka. He went through great hardships. His daughter was kidnapped for 14 years, essentially. Great prosperity. He was the king. And still having everything, he wanted to know Bhagavan. Many of us fall into the third type. Many of us fall into the second type too. This is why we're here, isn't it? Our health is decent. Our wealth is decent. Our career is decent. Our family is decent. Politics is decent. But we know there's more to life than meets the eye, which is why we're here. Which is why we come on Sundays to find out what that more than meets the eye is. People often ask me, Vivekji, what was that moment in your life that you decided to become a religious person? And I look at them in the eye and say, the girl I was engaged to called it off. And they're like, oh, okay. That's not true at all. But they're looking for that dramatic moment, what happened? Like Bollywood, they want Bollywood and religion to go together. But it's not a revolution, it is an evolution. If we think, I know everyone in this room has the same questions, why are we here? Am I happy? And then what happens? We get lost in the world. We have to drive here, we have to cook this, we have to clean this, we have to make this, we have to fight with this person, and that question is gone. But only when we follow the question will we find an answer. Think about customer service too. If you write an email complaining about something, how often do we get a reply? Rarely. But if you pick up the phone, the chances are higher. If you want to talk to a manager, it becomes higher. If you get a lawyer involved, then things happen. See the follow-through. If there's no follow-through, then things don't happen. And the highest devotee is not someone who just remembers Bhagavan in adversity, not just in prosperity, doesn't want to just know Bhagavan, but actually knows Bhagavan. That person is not someone who's different than Bhagavan, they are the same. And the example from our scriptures is Prahlad, a 6-year-old boy. We always think of, oh, Bhakta Prahlad, that's a great Balavihar play. You have the lion and he tears open his flesh. We should get our kids to do that. But he's a jnani. When his father says, where is your God? Is he in this stamba, in this pillar? He says, yes. And he's not saying that from a devotional sense. It is knowledge that Bhagavan is infinite. Obviously, he's in there too. Prahlad knew that Bhagavan knew Bhagavan, and so he's the same as Bhagavan. Now, why I'm bringing this up is, which devotee are we? Bhagavan is available to all of us, but do we only remember him here, or here, or here, or here? We are partial, not the Lord. And if I can understand and appreciate this, I will stop blaming and complaining. I will assume responsibility. The way that Pujya Swami Chinmayananda presents it, if the sun is outside and there's two homes side by side, and in one the sun is coming in and in one the sun is not coming in, it's not the sun's partiality. Someone has the blinds up and someone has the blinds down. Who's responsible for that? So life is gifted by another. We already highlighted that, Bhagavan. And life is given with love. Not to him more and to her less. Given to all of us equally with love. Just like a parent. If a child asks you, Mom, who do you love the most? And that child wants to hear their name, so you tell them that name. Then the other child comes, Mom, who do you love the most? And then you say that child. Right? So you really don't love any of them the most. You love all of them equally. This is what Lord Krishna was with the gopis and gopas. Each one of them thought that Lord Krishna was dancing just with that specific being. The nature of the Creator is love. So anything that comes from the Lord has to be of the nature of love too. If you make kheer with sugar in it, what is it going to be? Sweet. If you make it with salt, how will it taste? Salt. Have you ever had that happen where you mix the salt and sugar? I thought it only happened in movies, but recently someone made me coffee, not today. Someone made me coffee, but they put in salt and it was so bad. And but I'm glad it happened because I was like, oh, this is what actually happens. It's not just something people say. Life is more than what we think it is. Because whenever we think of life, we think of being born, we think of dying. But life is beyond being born and beyond being dying. And I'll share with you what life is in an example form. Today, one of our Balagar students was going to his Lego class, the science and technology classes, which is very cool. Because I find that more and more kids are being raised by screens rather than activities. I was teaching a group of Balavar students, young students, and I had 2 boxes of Lego, and I gave each child 2 handfuls of Legos. And I asked them, what did I give you? Legos. Now all of you have 15 minutes to make whatever you want. So this very rowdy group of kids all of a sudden became totally silent for 15 minutes. And I rested, because it's tiring to engage children all the time. After 15 minutes, I went around the circle and asked them, so, what did you make? And each person had talked about the shape of their house or their gun or their flying ship, and they were given a name too. And they were so happy they were holding it close to them. And then I'd said, now you have to break it. Yeah. And they said, are you sure we should break it? Break it. And so sadly they took off piece by piece like I was going to change my mind. And then I asked them, now what do you have? Legos. Legos in the beginning. What was in the middle? Legos in the middle too. Legos at the end. But what happened in the middle? We put on a form and a name. But was it different than the Legos? It was simply the form and the name. We think of life as that form and name, but life is beyond that form and name. We were just talking about Namakarna. When a child is born, the name is given how many days later? This is our quiz.
11.
14, 11, 21, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 11. Approximately 11 days later. And the significance behind this is When a name is given to an entity, it becomes closer to us. And back in the day when infant mortality was quite high, then some of these these babies didn't survive. So that's why one waited 11 days to ensure that this child would live on. It's at this time that the umbilical cord approximately falls off too. And now at a humerus level, why 11 days? When an infant is born, then the father is supposed to feed ghee and curd and sugar. I had said honey back in the day, but someone was really bothered by the honey. So something sweet, okay? Symbolically, he doesn't take a spoon and puts it in the child's mouth. Because they want the child's experiences to be strong. Like Punjabi people, put ghee on everything and lots of it. Be strong. And then curd, because all South Indian people, everything should be always serene all the time. And then, like kids, we want everything to be sweet. So I was teaching this to some high school students, and I said, if the father's not there to do it when the child is born, they do it 11 days later, around the Namakarna time. Why? Very thoughtful people. They said, because when the mother is in labor, the father faints. So only after he regains consciousness can he feed that child. So this idea of we think of life as just being a form and a name, but life is more than a form and a name. What do you call this? Coat. What am I wearing? Dhoti, shawl, undershirt. But what is it all essentially? Cotton. That's wood, this table's wood, I'm sitting on wood, the walls are wood, but we call it by different names. And Einstein had shared this so many years ago. The law of the conservation of energy is not created, energy is not destroyed, it simply changes form and name. So what is life? Life is existence, awareness, joy. In Sanskrit, the words are Sat, Chit, Ananda. Life is there before I have a form and name. Life will be there after I have a form and name. And so what I'm experiencing is simply a manifestation of life. But life is fundamental. If we take existence away from the universe, what happens to the universe? It's non-existent. If we take away air from the universe, what happens? Nothing. The universe is still there. If we take matter away from the universe, what happens? Nothing. The universe is still there. If we take existence away from the universe, what happens? There is no universe then. Awareness is the same. If I'm not aware, there's nothing. And joy. If I take my arm and start rubbing it on this wood, even though that's plastic, if I start rubbing it on this wood, in a matter of time, there will be a piece of wood, sliver, splinter in my flesh. And what's going to happen then? This body is going to start rejecting that. White blood cells, antibodies, the skin is going to push it out. Correct. But my wrist bones have been there for decades. My body's not doing anything to these wrist bones. Because these wrist bones are part of the ecosystem. And that wood is not. So it's rejected. Why is it when you and I are unhappy, scared, anxious, stressed out, worried, fearful, we try to get rid of that right away? Because if it was my nature, why would I want to escape that? Why would I want to release that? And wouldn't it be good for me? But it's not my nature. And have you ever had a day where you were so happy that you were miserable at the end of the day? That I was too happy today. I wish I could give some of it away. Right? We've never had that. I'm not going to say that. We've never had that day because our nature is infinite happiness. Existence, awareness, joy is life. And this is why Puja Swami Vivekananda shared, there is no real atheist. Many people like the label of atheist, but all that means is that they've not thought about it enough. Even to not believe in something, you have to believe in not believing, right? So you're a believer. But now, spinning it differently, everyone who's not moving towards happiness in this room, please put your hand up. Everyone is... I just didn't say the question clearly. I'll put it differently. A few years ago, I spoke at the Community Healthcare System Cardiology Symposium in Munster. 400 people there, mostly physicians and patients. And I was speaking on making sense of stress. And I asked everyone there, how many of you have experienced some sort of stress in the last week? I'm asking all of you too. How many of you have experienced some sort of stress in the last week? Put your hand up, if you have. So similar ratios. 90% of the people were telling the truth and 10% were lying. Every one of us is moving towards happiness. We're looking towards happiness. And in Sanskrit, we call that ananda. So everyone is moving towards God. There is no real atheist. Think lots about that. And Pujya Swami Chinmayananda shares such a beautiful difference between a seeker and a searcher. What is the difference? And we take these words very casually, but they're not. A seeker is looking for something but doesn't know where it is. You and I are looking for happiness, but we don't know where it is, so where do we try to find it? Coca-Cola. Open happiness, right? McDonald's. Buy a happy meal. We try to find it in articles, beings, circumstances. Where is happiness? Jamaica. That's the only place that there's happiness, not Peoria. Move to Jamaica. And we play this game. A searcher is looking for happiness and knows where it is, but hasn't found it yet. That person knows that the only joy there is one's nature, but hasn't found it yet. You and I tend to be more on the searcher side, which is why you're here again. It is Friday night. There are a lot of options of what to do today. Just driving down the street, there's a lot of options of what to do. But we are searchers. We know that there's not joy in whatever other establishments there are. So we know it's inside. It's our nature, but we haven't found it yet. Like car keys. You got home and your keys are somewhere at home. So you're a searcher, not a seeker. But if you have no idea where your car keys are, you're a seeker. But if you know they're in this room or in the house, you're a searcher. Life is the fundamental gift. If life is taken away, how important is an all-inclusive vacation to the Bahamas if you're not there? How important is having a good child if you're not there? It is the gift. And what's fascinating about this experience, when someone has a reception and they're given gifts, and everyone writes their thank you cards, right? Our receptions are a very inefficient process. I think people just shouldn't give gifts and people just shouldn't write wedding cards. Like, just come and period. Like that. And everything should be simplified. No one listens to me, but I really think we should simplify our get-togethers. In this thanking someone for what they've given us, when was the last time we thanked God for life? When was the last time we picked up the phone and told our parents, thank you for giving, you created these opportunities for me, because if you weren't there then, I wouldn't be here. In our scriptures, the message is, one can never be greater than their parents, because they're the cause and we are simply an effect. The effect can never be greater than the cause. How insulted would you feel if your child is going through commencement or they won an Academy Award or whatever, and they're thanking their friends and their professors and all this, but they don't mention your name? It would hurt a lot. Isn't the Creator feeling that a lot? Aren't our parents feeling that a lot? Life is a gift is simply a thought. That's it. Yet, a thought is the most powerful entity in this universe. It is the most powerful aspect of our personality. Whoever created, I was near Minneapolis, the Mall of America, didn't it start with a thought? Whoever decided to break the Berlin Wall, didn't that start with a thought? Whoever decided to bomb Japan, didn't that start with a thought? It is the most creative and destructive power in this universe. And if I can change my thoughts, I change my life. That's why in the last hour I've only shared one idea. Life is a gift. And if I can change my thoughts towards this, my whole life will change. What's interesting though is tomorrow, after the discourse, then I'm presuming that I'll be giving you Yajna Prasad, whether it's a fruit or a book or whatever it is. The prasad's already been given. It's being given constantly right now for an hour and perhaps half an hour afterwards. Correct? But we want something in our hands. We want to eat something or read something. Oh yeah, now he gave us something. Right? We need something tangible. But if I change my thoughts, I will change my life. It need not be so given something that's tangible like that. A gentleman, an old man, finds himself in a retirement home, the lobby, first day there. And he's thinking about his life. His beloved wife had just passed away. She had lost a battle against cancer. And he's thinking about how she had passed away. And so he gave his home up to create an orphanage. And he's just daydreaming about all of this. 1 hour passes, 2 hours pass, 3 hours pass, and he's just sitting there. The elevator doors open. The worker there says, "Sir, your room is ready." And he, with great pain, stands up and he walks towards her and he stands in the elevator with her. She presses the button. They're going to the floor where he is going to stay. And the worker says, "Sir, we were unable to fix the curtains, so there's just a sheet that's tied over there, very much like here. And we were unable to fix the tap either, so it's going to be dripping constantly. And we don't have enough money to change the bed, so you can feel the springs in it too." And as she's sharing all of these characteristics of his room, with each statement, his eyes grow wider and wider. And after she's finished, he says, "I like it very much." "What do you mean you like it? I've said all of these poor aspects of the room and you've not even seen it." And he says, "What does me seeing it have to do with anything? Every morning, I wake up and instead of focusing on the fact that my knees hurt, that my wife has just died, and that I'm going to live here instead of my home, I choose to focus on the fact that my body is still alive, that I had a loving wife, that I was able to give my home for a better use." And so what changed in his life? Context-wise, sure, but what changed more? Content. The software changed. The hardware is just hardware. It doesn't matter if you use a plastic keyboard or a glass keyboard, but if the software changes, if there's a virus in the software versus if there's not, everything changes then, doesn't it? We have thought about this evening how we're all directed towards happiness. We have thought about what a gift is. What are the two characteristics of a gift? Number one, it is given by another and given with love. And the third is that life is a gift. Life has been given by the Creator, and anything given by the Creator is given with love. This is enough. I know we feel like, hey, but tell me what I should do. I've already told you what to do. And not me, I'm just a mouthpiece for the Guru Parampara. I'm asking us to get up out of our seats and catch the frisbee. Right? If a frisbee's flying overhead, I have a choice to just put my arm up, or I have an opportunity to jump up and catch it. These ideas are enough to transform our lives. But it requires us to stand up, to jump, think. Pujaswami Tejamananda jokes, we can go a few minutes without air, we can go a few days without water, we can go a few weeks without food, we can go forever without thinking. We just do instead of thinking about why we are doing. And that's why some of us very proudly have this aversion to rituals. We have this aversion to, I don't want to go to the temple. But it's because I don't ask why, and so I don't know what is happening. But if I just go through school without asking why or what is happening, isn't that a ritual? Going to work would be the same. Being in a relationship would be the same. How is this any different? This is actually a more comprehensive ritual. So we like to think we're not ritualists, but are we actually not ritualists? And on a funny note, we are studying the Jnana Kanda right now. Bhagavad Gita, Upanishad, it's all the knowledge aspect of the Vedas, of our scriptures. But when it comes to donations, we only give to the Karma Kanda, isn't it? How to raise funds? Sponsor a murti, sponsor a puja, sponsor bhiksha. Give money for a discourse. What discourse? Give money for a mortgage. What mortgage? See, we're all karma kandis. And I'm not saying this to be intrusive. I'm asking us to think of who we actually are. We may like to call ourselves Jnana Kandis, but really we're karma kandis. We are engaged in these rituals. Many people ask me, so why did you go and study at our Chinmaya Mission Ashram? This is why. The Visheshana, or the specialty of Chinmaya Mission, is knowledge. It's actually Chit Maya, not Maya. Maya means pervaded. Chit means consciousness or knowledge. That which is pervaded by knowledge or consciousness is Chinmaya. And the mission is to share that. Because when knowledge is there, everything changes. Vidyadanam, Mahadanam. The greatest charity one can give is knowledge. Because once the knowledge is given, one changes forever. Have you seen those emails where it looks like an old lady, but it's actually two young ladies looking at each other, or it looks like a candle, but it's something else? Have you seen those emails?
Illusions.
Right. Once you see what it actually is, can you ever unforget that? Can you ever forget that? No, I always catch what it actually is. Knowledge is the same way. When we were studying in the Vedanta course, what Puja Swami Tejamayana emphasized constantly was, more important than what to think is how to think. Because if it's what to think, then it's limited. But if it's how to think, it is limitless. I do a lot of talks on spiritual parenting now. I don't know why, because I'm not a parent, but I do these talks anyways. Even at medical facilities, I find myself talking at many hospitals and medical facilities. I'm a business student. So life is really fascinating, where life gives you these roles and responsibilities. Puja Swami Tejamayana in the jokes. Before people have children, they have many theories on raising children, but they don't have any children. Fast forward some years, they have many children, but no theories on raising children, right? How many people read a parenting book before having a child? Maybe we dabbled about it here and there, but how do you be a good parent? Love. A book cannot teach one how to be a good parent. In the same way, we have to learn how to think, so it's universal, not specific. With knowledge, this pendulum begins. The first swing in the pendulum is knowledge. Knowledge then affects my vision. Vision affects my attitude. Attitude affects my thoughts. Thoughts affect my words. Words affect my actions. Kva, tva. When someone has no knowledge, they're ignorant. You know those people who are very not arrogant, but ignorant about life and culture, racists and so on. Their vision of life is very limited then, right? They're not inclusive of people. Their attitude is very poor then. Their thoughts are base, their words are harsh, and their actions are dirty. But when someone has knowledge, and I'm not even talking about sacred knowledge, secular knowledge, someone who is more educated, their vision of life is much bigger. Their attitude towards life is much higher. Their thoughts are much more chaste. Their words are clearer. Their actions are more beautiful. See how this pendulum begins? You and I have come here to change. And though you don't want to hear it from me, you know why you're here. You came here to change. And if we really want to change, it has to start with knowledge. That's what we've explored in this 1 hour, is with knowledge that life is a gift. We've not even talked about living as an art. With this life is a gift, that's enough. I can change my life. But it has to come from you. I often go to people's homes and their parents tell me about what's happening with their kids, good and bad. And the parents tell me, can you say this to my son? Can you say this to my daughter? So I register it all, and then when I meet their son or daughter, I say, I'm going to tell you what your parents tell you, but you're going to listen to me because I'm not your parent. And it's true. It's often not about what is said, but how it's said. One of our chicks, our Chinmaya Yuvakanda, he works in the mental health field. And talking to people with mental illnesses, it's even more important with how you speak to them. You can ask them, so are you thinking about hurting yourself and be very passive aggressive, or do you have thoughts of hurting yourself where I actually express concern? It's the same message, but how is it shared? This perspective of life is a gift and the knowledge we've shared on it requires us to change. And when these ideas come from within you, this change will take place. But if it comes from me, it came from me and I can let go of it. This is what the movie Inception presents very nicely. Initially, the idea is from Dominic, that this gentleman should break up the empire. But they know that idea will be rejected, just like here. So what does he do? He goes deep into his personality, so the idea comes from him. Then he acts on the idea. Which is why in our sadhana, you and I are sadhakas. That is the person. Sadhya is the goal. We want to be, what do we want to be? Peaceful, happy, joyous. I read an article that when John Lennon was 5 years old, he was given an assignment in class and it said, what do you want to be? And so he wrote an answer. Gave it to the teacher. The teacher called him sometime later and said, the question is, what do you want to be? And you wrote down happy. He says, yes, this is what I want to be. And the teacher said, I don't think you understood the assignment. And he looks up at her and says, I don't think you understood life. Right? We just want to be happy. So that's the sadhya, the goal. So here I am, the sadhaka, the mover. This is the sadhya where I want to go. But how do I get here? Sadhana. This is the path. And in Vedanta specifically, the path is Shravanam, then Mananam, and Nididhyasana. We are experts when it comes to Shravanam. We are professional listeners. So we put so much water into our mouth. We're thirsty, so we put water in our mouth. But after Shravanam, what do? We fail to do the Mananam, so we start spitting that water out. But Mananam is ingesting that water. In other words, letting it go down to my throat. A better example is food. I'm hungry. You and I are hungry for happiness. So what do? Shravanam. Let me listen to what the scriptures are teaching, what the sages have to say about this. So now I have all of this food in my mouth. Now, for this food to nourish me, I have to ingest it. But I can't ingest it whole, so I have to chew on this. That's where the Mananam comes in. This is where you and I are weak. We are strong with Shravanam, especially with YouTube, Ustream, etc. But the Mananam, am I thinking about this? And unless I chew this, I cannot assimilate it. It cannot make me strong. Let these ideas become your ideas. And they'll only become yours when we think about it. And I'll complete my thoughts with the experience I had in January, and then we can have some questions. I was in Daytona in January, and I was leaving the discourse to go to Bhiksha, and the person driving me said, did you know the Daytona track was here? And when I was growing up, my cousins owned an arcade, and I would go there often, and they had the Daytona 500 game. It's a sit-down video game, one of the first, driving game. And I was like, wow. And she had asked me, do you want to go to the track tomorrow? I said, of course I want to go to the track. This is why I became an acharya, to do cool things like this. So the next day we go there, and we're wandering around the track. It's huge. Like, the capacity is like 160,000 people. And she said, okay, so let's go. And we're just wandering around. I said, go where? Onto the track. So I come onto the track, and they say, put this on. And they give me like the 6-foot onesie. You have to wear that suit. And then they put the helmet on, and then the back brace, the neck brace, and then you climb into the stock car. And they put in the mesh. You climb in through the window, and they put the mesh up. Have any of you sat in the stock car before? So I'm here on the Daytona track, and all geared up. And the person sitting beside me, the driver, he looks at me and puts his thumb up. And I'm like, great, this person's happy, I'm happy too, thumbs up to you too, and he takes off. And he starts ripping around this track. And I'm looking at the odometer, and it's going around 200 miles an hour. And I've never been so fast on that, other than a helicopter or a plane, etc., but not in a car. 200 miles is fast. And the first turn, these are huge turns, so a lot of pressure. But after that, I got used to it, and everything was quite enjoyable. And I was thinking to myself that, what if we reversed roles? What if I was driving the car and he was sitting there? Then both of us would have cardiac arrest immediately and simultaneously. Because I don't know what I'm doing. But this person, he studied, he thought about it, he assimilated. So he's made his life more smooth, this race, and he made my race more smooth. But if we reverse, there will be no smoothness for either of us. The scriptures are here to make our life more, as I said, strong, smooth, serene, and sweet. And if our life is not more strong, serene, and sweet, maybe we're not thinking enough about it. Okay. Does anyone have any questions that they've written down? Okay. Does anyone have any questions in their minds that they would like to ask? You know what they say about people who don't have any questions.
They're lost.
You understood everything, or you understood
Nothing.
But I'm positive it's the former. Positive. I was saying that this subject is so universal. I don't think I used too many Sanskrit terms, and I didn't bring in the idea of the scriptures too much either. Not that I'm against that, but it's such a universal subject that even a young adult and a child can understand this too. And it's just as important for them. So I know you've understood everything. Any clarification needed? Yes. Your name and speak clearly, please.
My name is Unit Marutra, and the question I have is, why do people or us, why do we not do things that we know we have to do?
He read all your minds, didn't he? This is
the right thing to do, what we don't act on.
This is why it's important to not have fear when asking questions. Because I am sure his question we've all thought about or are thinking about now. Duryodhana goes through the same in Mahabharata. He studied in the Gurukul just like Lord Krishna, just like Prince Arjuna. And he says, I know what is the right thing to do, but I just can't do it. 95% of the people in the world know what the right thing is to do, definitely everyone in this room. But often we don't do it. Why? There are a variety of reasons. I'm going to share some, but we should think more because each personality is a little bit different about why they don't do it. One is cost-benefit analysis has not been done. Life is an opportunity cost. If you're here, the opportunity cost is you can't be at that restaurant. If you're at the restaurant, the opportunity cost is you can't be here. Clear? So here, when you decided to come here, what should have happened is cost-benefit analysis. What are the costs of me coming here? Meaning, what are the negatives of me coming here? So I have to sit cross-legged for 90 minutes, and I might fall asleep, and the person next to me may not smell very nice, whatever it may be. And then the benefits, that I may get enlightened, I may find the eternal source of happiness, etc. And then you outweigh that, and then you go towards that. with doing the right thing, we often see more costs than the benefits. And this is so beautifully illustrated with telling a lie. If I break something by accident, and you ask me, hey, did you break it? And I say, no, it was already broken. The costs of telling you that is much higher than the benefits. I should just lie to you and just let it go. But what I don't realize, that's only in the short term. In the long term, it's still on my mind. And every time I see you, I will remember that. See, the costs of not telling you are actually much higher. But it requires that thinking. This is where Pujya Swami Tejamananda is shared. The softest pillow is a down pillow with goose feathers, right? The softest pillow is a clean conscience. When we've done the wrong thing, suppose I even insulted you, and I try to sleep at night, what am I thinking about? What I said to you. It's not like I'm an animal that doesn't think about that. I remember what I did to you, and I can't sleep. But if I've done the right thing, I can be sleeping here on the floor because my mind is so quiet. So number one, cost-benefit analysis. We have to do more thoroughly and more honestly. Number two, about why we don't do the right thing, why we can't act on the right thing, is that we've not experienced the joy of responsibility. Often when sports teams win a cup or a conference or whatever, what do the people in the city do? Tear down the city. Everyone starts breaking things and looting, and it just turns into madness. When it should be a celebration, it turns into a riot. We think that being licentious, being indulgent, being told what to do is wrong. No one should tell me what to do. We think that's freedom. Freedom of speech. I should be able to say whatever I want. I should be able to go to whatever website I want, etc., etc. That's not freedom. That is actually lack of freedom, because I'm so dependent on that stimulation. But Pujya Swami Chinmayananda has taught freedom is not doing what you want to do or doing what you don't want to do. Through engaging in our responsibility, we grow the most. When someone skips class versus they go to class, they gain much more by going to class than skipping class. Even with parents, in the first 6 months or a year, parents actually feel quite negative towards their infant. Because it's so new. There's so many responsibilities with a newborn, and there's a lot of negativity that's projected towards them. But as we wait that out, the joy of looking after an infant helps me grow so much. What is the virtue that one gains as a parent? Patience, right? We all know that. Patience is the virtue that is gained through being a parent, through being married, and so on and so forth. When we begin to experience the benefits of responsibility, the joy of responsibility, we'll keep acting on it. Like getting up in the morning, exercising, that's the best example. Prior to going to the gym, who cares if I'm fat? Who cares if I'm unhealthy? But after having gone to the gym, I'm so glad I got up in the morning and went to the gym. We all feel like that. So if we start to experience the joy of responsibility, we will build momentum towards that. So I said we have to think more, we have to experience more, and the third way to act on what is the right thing to do is to tune into the Creator more. Tuning into the Creator is not just someone who is far off, but the scriptures and the sages. When you and I study more, what is right and what is wrong becomes more clear. Duryodhana was a good student, but he wasn't a great student, which is why when he and Prince Arjuna went to Lord Krishna, Arjuna chose Lord Krishna. Paramatman Artha Iti Partha. He knew that the real wealth is Paramatma. Duryodhana thought the real wealth is his weapons and his armies. Duryodhana stayed away from Bhagavan. Prince Arjuna stayed towards Bhagavan. So he was more in tune with clearly what is right and what is wrong. You and I sort of know what is right and wrong, but we're not clear about that right and wrong. This is so nicely shared through Deepavali. Where is this milky ocean that we talk about on Deepavali? Have you ever been to that milky ocean? That milky ocean is our personality. And I'll get into this tomorrow. I'll begin tomorrow with this idea of the Devatas and the Rakshasas. But essentially, the Devatas, which is our selfless side, and the Rakshasas, which is the selfish side, they're churning that milky ocean, which is my mind, the doubts in my mind. And only with that churning, what comes out? A lot of good things and a lot of bad things too. Like poison. When we go deep into our personality, we will find a lot of ugly aspects of who we are. How impatient we are, how angry we are, how jealous we are. But just like if I swallow poison, it has to come out of my system, whether through my mouth or you pump it out of my stomach, but it needs to come out or it will kill me. And a lot of good comes out, like Mother Lakshmi. Mother Lakshmi is not only prosperity, she's actually peace. When we align ourselves with the scriptures and sages, we start to go deeper into our personality, and right and wrong becomes more clear. One of the most frequently asked questions is what you just asked. How do I know what I'm doing is right? If you ask people like Swami Chinmayananda, Swami Vivekananda, Adi Shankaracharya, etc., Mahatma Gandhi even, they're very clear about what is right and wrong. And so they act on it, whatever the repercussions, and see how aligned with the scriptures they were. Yes?
My name is Dev Mungi, and thank you for your disclosure. So here is my question, and I'll just probably portray myself and see if others feel the same way. I think it's very acceptable to receive what you just said, that life is a gift. Part of it is because, as you said, I have a decent family, I have a decent job, I have a decent family and decent friends. So let's presume we change the audience to a group of very unsuccessful family, very unsuccessful people, people who have only experienced bitterness, and people who have failed in their life. How do you tell them life is a gift?
Mm-hmm. It's like that incident I told you about one of our chicks. It's how we present the question that makes all the difference. So if someone is having the most miserable time, if I can show them that I love them, I can educate them that life is a gift. If someone has the best life, but I'm arrogant in how I present it, they will still think, hey, life is not a gift. It's very important that relationship is built. Even with you and I, the first time I came, more of you sat like this. The second time you sat like this. The third time now you're sitting like this. Because our relationship is built. You don't have to, I hope you don't have to test my credibility. I'm saying you should think. I never said believe me blindly. But the relationship is built. So we can be more transparent with each other. People often ask, why do bad things happen to good people? So if we just, and many of us may think that, if we just want to meet Tejramananda shares, the first thing we have to ask is, are we really good people? Right? We like to believe that we're good people, but are we really good people? And now, the hardships that you've talked about are all external. Whatever is happening externally is so far irrelevant to what's happening internally. Because I can have the ideal life outside but be miserable inside, or I can have the miserable outside but ideal inside. It has nothing to do with context, it has to do with content. I meet a lot of young people who are the ideal candidates on Shadi.com. Like you said, family is good, education is good, they have wheatish complexion. But sadly, these are some of the people who commit suicide. Because inside they're miserable. Outside it's perfect. Inside miserable. Whereas I recently heard a study on NPR, NPR is one of my gurus. I drive 500 miles a week, so I listen to a lot of NPR. And they were doing a study about some of the slum kids in India. And they did a study where they tried to take some of them off the street and give them, whatever, education or whatever. And they didn't want to. They were happy doing what they were doing. They're engaged and they're healthy and they're active. I'm not saying right or wrong, but the point is if you ask them if they're happy, they'll say yes. And happiness is very subjective. Just like my glasses. When these glasses were put on me, the optometrist said, "Can you see more clearly?" And he's just using my subjective gaze. Yes, no. It's not like it's something so scientific. He's simply asking, can you see more clearly? I'm not an expert, but I'm the one who's experiencing it. So yes, now I can see more clearly. Good, these are the glasses we'll give you. Puja Swami Tejamananda shares, if success is prasad, failure is Mahaprasad. With success sometimes comes ego. With failure often comes a lack of ego. So if there's a lot of hardships going on outside, I'll be very clear now. Here are the 3 things that we need to do to explain this to someone. Number 1 is to explain to them that it's not that bad outside. It could be worse. When someone becomes a paraplegic or a quadriplegic, at least they didn't die. One of our mission members in a study group, he fell off a bike, broke his neck, and now he's a quadriplegic. And worse than that is he could have died. So it's not that bad. It could always be worse. Number 2, and in saying it's always be worse, we have to hold their hand when we're saying this. Not in a judgment kind of way, like, hey, my life's better than yours. But to show them, hey, you have all of these positives in your life. Number 2 is to help them understand that everything that is given to them with love. Remember, we don't give to each other. He gives to us. And everything he gives to us is from love. It's for our betterment. Just like, and this is the difference between the original parent and us. Our intention is good for our children, but sometimes we don't do the right thing. It's not better for them. But the intention is right. The difference with God is the intention is right and it's always right. The action is right too. So if that means me having a loving wife, but soon after she comes to despise me, it's better for both of us. Because it came from him. Knowing this, even whatever harsh is happening, is to make me stronger, to make me go inside. We learn a lot through adversity. It brings us inside. And finally, the highest and the most difficult concept to understand with this is that all that happens we deserve. The karma theory is not partial, it is pure. Just like a knife, if I put it into my flesh, will kill me. It's not like, oh, that's Vivek, I'm not going to be pointy. It's simply the nature of a knife. It will kill anyone whose chest it goes into. So karma, everything we get in our lives is deserved, good or bad. And that makes us more responsible. So what's happening in the Philippines, I know it's so harsh to watch and to read about, but it's supposed to happen that way. In the scriptures, the word is stane, as is. Everything is as it's supposed to happen. And it's always for our best. See, that's why I said point number 2. It's always for our best, and it's supposed to happen that way. This is how we can understand the hardships in our life more. And I'll say that one more time because it's such an important subject. Number 1, it can always be worse. Number 2, and what's so amazing about that is we think everything is fatalistic, but it's not. You remember the worst experiences in our life, but here we are. Things got better, didn't they? Things go up, things go down. That's the nature of life. I got fired here, I got a job here. I broke my arm here, I got to sit at home and learn a subject. Number 2, God is our well-wisher. Sometimes he doesn't give us what we want because he wants to, and he gives it to us later to teach us patience. It's like released pleasure, released medicine. As it comes slowly, it has a greater impact on us. Sometimes he doesn't give us what we want because he's waiting to give us something better. Often that's the case too. Whatever way we present this, it is for our best. I cannot emphasize that enough. Good or bad. Good and bad is our labels. In God's world, there's only the world. We say it's good or bad. Right now, I'm saying how hot it is. If my grandmother from Delhi came, she'd be freezing outside. Same temperature, but for one person it's hot, for someone it's cold. And the third is, in life there are no accidents. Everything is planned. Whatever happens, happens because we deserve it. So if things are going well in my life, thank you, Bhagavan, for encouraging me to think rightly, speak rightly, act rightly. If things are not going well in my life, Bhagavan, teach me how to think rightly, speak rightly, act rightly. You can take one short question. Yes.
I was wondering why it is that with our anger and everything that comes, all the negatives that come out from us, why do they always go to the people that are closest to us?
It's because we allow people to walk all over us. Put it that way. If your son, daughter, husband, parent, whatever it is, if they said something to you and you said, hey, the next time you say something like this, I'm not going to forgive you or I'm not going to look after you, and you actually acted on it, they'll think twice the next time. But you're a mother, you're not allowed to do that. Right? It's just we keep giving and giving and giving. That's why. But if it's a friend, suppose I get into an argument with my wife and I say something to her, she'll still, tomorrow, I'll say sorry and we'll continue. But if it's another friend, someone I don't know, and I say the same thing, that person will never show up ever again, because they're not vested in my life. So this is part of the reason. We take for granted that another opportunity will come. Many of us live like we'll never die. And this leads to us dying like we never lived. Right? We live like we're never going to die. But at a theory level, we all know we're going to die. But do we act like it? Have you seen the movie Gravity? Anyone? I'm going to stop asking you questions about this. See Gravity. See Gravity as a family. It's such an awesome movie. But please sit in the back because there's a lot of movement in the movie. And the lady says, we all know we're going to die, but just not today. If we all know that tomorrow at 9 p.m. we are going to die, won't tomorrow be a completely different day than today? You're all thinking, yeah, we wouldn't come to this satsang if we knew. But we should. Like, what did he do when he had 1 week to live? Hey, I'm going to do as much satsang as possible. And he attained enlightenment. So we keep thinking we have more opportunities, but if we give our heart to the opportunity that comes to us, then we won't express vices so much. And one more point related to why we express these vices to those who are close to us. We know that they'll absorb it. And because we know they'll absorb it, we express to them. If I know that someone will not absorb it, I won't say it to them. But we know that they'll absorb it, and so I express it to them. It's like when children often say mean things to their mothers, but they won't say it to their fathers, generally, because they know their father will not take that. I tell our Balavir teachers, if any parents say anything to you, you just direct them to me. Then those parents don't say anything. But to their Balavir teachers, they'll say, why did you do this? Why didn't you do this? Blah, 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 blah. That absorption, which is very similar to the first point that I had made. So the first that I had shared is that we keep allowing people to take advantage of us. And that's not a bad thing. It's actually quite noble. We complain that Mother Sita was sent to the forest. She never complained. Why do you and I complain for her? And that's a major subject that we can get into another time. But please keep in mind, she never complained. Why are we complaining about that? It's like if you told me, why does Chinmay Mission make you travel so much? I'm not complaining. Why are you projecting your complaints on me? I'm grateful for these opportunities, hypothetically, if this happened. Second is that we do not pay attention to our opportunities. We take advantage of our our opportunities. We don't take advantage of our opportunities. The opportunity that, hey, this person is not going to be there tomorrow, then I will be quite different with them. And the third is that we only express to those who will absorb, we do not express to those who will not absorb. And we should change that, because it hurts them, and I feel it hurts us more. Whenever we feel we've said something mean to someone, they may be feeling bad about it, but I feel the person who said it feels more bad about it. It's like bullying. The person who's bullied certainly suffers, but the bully is suffering too, probably more than the person who's bullied. Imagine what would have caused them to be like that. Suffering. So we should change that, because why? Why suffer? All of the questions you asked are subjective. We have this mindset that we're looking for a black and white answer, but that's not possible. Each personality in this room is so different. If you ask me make water, everyone in the room would have the same formula to make water. But when it comes to making rasam, right, everybody in the room has a different formula to make rasam, or kheer, or how much water to put in. Rice is more objective. These questions and these answers are subjective. I tried to give you systematic points of this is easier than getting to higher, but there's still my thoughts and my answers, and I'm encouraging you to make them your thoughts and your answers, because it will become much more clear. What's happening in my head about the subject is relatively clear. And make it clear for yourself too. The examples that work for me may not work for you, so think of your own examples. Just like each parent uses different techniques to feed their child, and you can't use the same technique for each child. This is equally more subjective. So think. And the way that I'm going to encourage you to think is to give you a RAD. Do you remember what a RAD is? Yes, but what does RAD stand for? Reflection assignment for the day. Here is your assignment. I want every one of you to think about the 5 best aspects of your life. From the time you were born to now, what are the 5 best aspects of your life? It could be a vacation you went on. It could be a certain piece of technology you have. It could be a quality you have, whatever it is. But what are the 5 best aspects of your life? And try to be as specific as possible. Think about this. We'll debrief about this tomorrow. Sarve bhavantu sukhinah, sarve santu niramayah, sarve bhadrani pashyantu, ma kaschid dukkha bhag bhavet. Om shanti shanti shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.